Welcome to the Burn Your Mortgage Podcast, a Canadian real estate podcast that shows you how to pay off your mortgage sooner and live well while doing it. Now, here's your host, Sean Cooper.
Welcome to the Burn Your Mortgage Podcast. I'm Sean Cooper, and it is great to be back for another episode. On today's show, I'll be talking to a returning guest, Jelani Smith. Jelani Smith is a personal finance guru with a passion for real estate and personal finance. He is a real estate agent at RE/MAX Hallmark Realty and a team lead for Vertex Real Estate. He bought his first home in Toronto as a recent U of T grad and looks forward to sharing his knowledge with students and recent grads. Jelani has received multiple agent awards, including, but not limited to, receiving the Chairman's Club Award 3 years in a row. With the intent of helping clients climb the real estate ladder, he closed 39 deals within the first 12 months of his real estate career. All in all, Jelani has the vision of providing guidance to investors, buyers, and sellers with the underlying goal of wealth creation. In my interview with Jelani, we discuss current opportunities for real estate investors, garden suites and fourplex opportunities for investors, the increase in the price cap for insured mortgages from $1 million to $1.5 million, advice for first-time home buyers as well as those looking to move up in the current market, and finally, the current state of the rental market. Without further ado, here's my interview with Jelani Smith. Hi, Jelani. How are you doing today?
Hey, Sean. I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. It's wonderful to have you back on the show. I believe this is your third appearance on the show. I was looking for a realtor to regularly have on the show to discuss what's going on in the market, and you're pretty knowledgeable about the market. So yeah, thanks for agreeing to come on the show, and excited to discuss what's going on in the real estate market and some other interesting topics that I'm sure the listeners will find riveting.
No problem at all, Sean. Thanks again for having me on the call. I'm looking forward to this podcast session as well. So thanks again for reaching out. It's always appreciated.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for your time, and let's get started here. So yeah, the first topic that I wanted to discuss about is opportunities for investors. So you know the Ontario real estate market best, but I mean, yeah, feel free to talk about it for the rest of Canada if you know anything about what else is going on, because we have listeners all across the country. But yeah, I guess you mainly work at the GTA. So yeah, maybe you could just talk about all good opportunities for investors. Mortgage rates are coming down, so it's easier to cash flow these days. So yeah, how are things going right now? And if somebody's looking to get into the market as an investor, what are some things that they should be on the lookout for?
Most certainly. So with today's market, also, as you know, the interest rates have came down over the past couple of months. Thankfully, I think it's about time. But however, despite the interest rates being reduced, which obviously does benefit the purchasing power, I've noticed the prices are holding stable. So for example, if you look at the October 2024 market stats for the Toronto Real Estate Region Board, the sales have actually increased 44% year over year. However, if you look at the average prices, they've only increased by just a little bit over 1% year over year, right? So that speaks to the volume that there's buyers that are certainly returning to the market at a steady pace, which I've been noticing as well for various types of listings across the GTA. However, despite the fact that some properties may receive multiple offers, I'm still noticing that the prices are still holding steady. And I personally do feel that we won't see the true impacts of the interest rate cuts until quarter one, quarter two of next year. However, there's obviously other external factors that are involved. It depends on the employment data, the buyer confidence, and etc. So with that being said, from an investor's perspective, there are still opportunities in the real estate market to cash flow positively, which is one of the many reasons why investors choose to invest into real estate. Not just appreciation, it's also the cash flow that they look into. So within the GTA region, purchasing a single family home, such as a condo a townhome, or a single unit detached home, typically this doesn't cash flow in today's environment unless you're putting down a larger down payment, more than 20% down. So usually what I'm noticing in today's market, what will make the most sense from an investment standpoint is purchasing a duplex property. So in other words, purchasing a home that has two units in it, so where you can get dual rental income potential within the one property. In that case, obviously 9 out of 10 times, you'd be positive cash flow. So that's the trend that I'm noticing to this market that makes the most sense from investor standpoint. Obviously not just benefiting from the appreciation, but also benefiting from the cash flow, which will also improve over time as the interest rates do come down gradually.
Thank you for your insight there, Jelani. And my thinking is as well that, yeah, 2025, it's expected that we're going to be seeing the lion's shares of the interest rate cuts there. Like we started seeing interest rate cuts in the second half of 2024, but 2025 is where we'll really see the most interest rates cut. So, yeah, my thinking is that interest rates are the single biggest driver of home prices, and home prices are inversely related, meaning as interest rates go down, home prices go up. So my thinking is if you're in the financial position, you might as well get into the market now before interest rates go down even further and home prices go up even more. Do you tend to agree with that sentiment there? Because yeah, when interest rates go down, like we could see the return of bidding wars and that will drive home prices up. So might as well try to get in sooner rather than later and beat the rush.
Most certainly, because once the interest rates do come down, that indirectly benefits the buyer's purchasing power, right? And that also brings in more buyers into the market as well. So it does indirectly increase the demand. And also what I've noticed, what I also find interesting is the new CMEC rules, which is going to be effective as of December 15th, where you can do less than 20% down payment for homes up to $1.5 million and 30-year amortization instead of 25 years. So aside from the interest rate being gradually declining over the next couple of months, I also do think this new CMEC rule is also going to increase the demand from especially first-time home buyers or those who are looking to move up from one primary residence to another, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how these regulations also have an impact on the market.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up there, Jelani, because yeah, that was one of the topics that I wanted to talk about. And yeah, I think these changes of increasing the maximum home price for insured mortgages up to $1.5 billion for being able to put less than 20% down is long overdue because, yeah, like previous to that, if you wanted to buy a single family home in expensive markets like Toronto and Vancouver and put less than 20% down, it just wasn't possible. So, yeah, these changes are long overdue. I mean, I don't think it's fair that basically like everyone's forced in the expensive markets to buy a condo or townhouse if they have less than 20% down. So I definitely think these changes are long overdue. And with the lower interest rates, it should help people qualify for these properties as well. So yeah, I'm definitely happy that these changes are here and they were definitely long overdue in my opinion.
Most certainly. And also, if you look at the Toronto real estate market and also the Vancouver area real estate market, typically speaking, the average selling price is usually has been over $1 million over the past couple of years at least, right? So I think them increasing the limit up to $1.5 million, it truly does open up more opportunities or options for especially first-time home buyers have looked into properties are usually priced just above that $1 million ballpark. So it gives them that opportunity to secure that property that will be doable for less than 20% down payment mortgage.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. So yes, thanks again for your insight there, lady. And yes, I just wanted to quickly touch on this here. So I received the rental report from rentals.ca just talking about the rents right now. And if you read the headline, it says rents in Canada decline nationally for the first time since COVID. But again, it's important to read below the headlines there. Maybe you can talk a bit about the rental market and what's going on and how it can be a bit cyclical in nature. Like the rental market seems to be kind of like the ice cream stores, like their best selling time is during the summertime. And it seems like the rental market, that can be a busy time as well because people typically want to move before the start of the new school year if they have kids there. So yeah, did you want to share some thoughts on this report from rentals.ca and what's going on with the rental market and what you're seeing on the ground as well with some of your rental properties and for helping your clients lease out properties as well?
hmm So I do have quite a few rental listings in the GTA region. I do notice, especially compared to last year, the demand hasn't been as strong, or I do notice that there's a little bit less competition within the rental market. However, there's a few factors that are involved behind that. I'll say one of the biggest things is we're pretty much, at the time of filming this, we're pretty much going into the Christmas season very shortly. So typically speaking, the winter months are usually a little bit slower for the rental market. I do find that the rental market is a little bit more active in the spring and summer markets, especially for families who prefer to move outside of the school year as opposed to moving in the middle of the school year. And secondly, it also kind of speaks to the state of our economy at the moment, despite the fact that the interest rates have been declining over the past couple of months. We do have to keep in mind that there's been quite a few layoffs that have been happening over the past couple of months as well, right? Especially from corporations and etc. So I do feel that it's also having an impact on the rental market. However, given that the fact that the interest rates are gradually declining, we truly want to see the impacts of those interest rate cuts until a couple months after. That's kind of what I've been noticing. So we'll have to see how it plays out over the next couple of months. But I do foresee the rental prices kind of stabilizing for the near future. I think the days rapid rental increase year over year increases are long gone. I think going forward it's going to be more of a steady appreciation, or it might just stabilize at a certain price point for a certain period of time.
Sure. So not all doom and gloom like the headlines say there. And yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be in a rush to get a tenant either. You want necessary due diligence so that you find a tenant that's well suited for your property and you're going to have a good long-term relationship there as landlord and tenant. So that's important as well. So perfect. Well, let's switch gears for a second here. And yeah, an interesting topic that you suggested that we talk about is garden suites as well as fourplexes in Toronto. So yeah, I've heard there's been a lot in the news headlines about garden suites, and yeah, it just seems like that's an interesting way, for example, like for multi-generational households or people looking to earn some extra rental income from additional property on their lot there. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on and experiences with garden suites and how the city's been changing the rules to try to make them easier, and if you think that's a good opportunity for investors as well.
For sure, I think this whole garden suite initiative has been very exciting. So, like, as you know, recently the city of Toronto has passed a new bylaw saying that you could have up to 5 units on a property within the Toronto region. So how that works is the existing dwelling to be built up to 4 units. And in addition, you could build the fifth unit as a garden suite, which would typically be in the back here, or a laneway suite, depending on where in the city you are or where the property is located. The main reason why they passed this bylaw is to combat the housing shortage that Toronto has been facing over the past couple of years, or I would say over the past decade. So I think it's a great way for them to increase the housing supply within the city, bringing more affordable options for renters, or help homeowners pay down the mortgage relatively quicker. So with the garden suite, typically speaking, let's say we have, I'll use a random block size, let's say 50 by 125 feet deep block, which is, I would say, around the average size for a bungalow lot within the Toronto region. So in many cases, obviously depending on the setback and etc. However, I would say on the average, if you usually build a garden suite, that's about 500-ish square feet per level. So 500 square feet on the main floor, 500 square feet in the basement level. So typically speaking, with these garden suites, you can usually do around 2 to 3 bedrooms in total, and the rental income could be around $3,000 to $3,500 per month. That's a rough ballpark that we'd be looking at. So that also meets the 1% rule. And the reason why I say that is because I say typically speaking, the garden suite construction could cost, let's say, around $300 to $350,000. Obviously, it depends which contractor you use, the type of material, and etc. But let's say it costs $250,000. You can rent out for about $3,500 per month. Right away, you're meeting that 1% rule, which we both know is very hard to achieve in Toronto or the GTA region. Typically speaking, you have to go to the smaller towns to meet that 1% rule. So that's the beauty about garden suites is they're pretty much maximizing your property, bringing in that additional revenue stream. And in many cases, when you do run the numbers, after building a garden suite, it would be very easy to be positive cash flow over $1,500 per month, depending on how much you rent out the existing home for. So I personally think that garden suites is a no-brainer, and I'm excited that they finally passed on the bylaw for this type of build. And I'm starting to see lenders also provide financing programs for garden suites as well.
Yeah, I just heard about the Canadian government making it easier for home buyers. They can refinance up to 90% of their property's value to do some renovations to help with the rental market as well. So yeah, I definitely think that's a step in the right direction there. And as you said earlier, the way that you can get a positive cash flow in this current environment that we're in is by adding more units. So I'm glad that through less government red tape and also through adjustments to the mortgage qualification rules that's becoming a lot easier because yes, prior to these changes here, I heard it was almost next to impossible between getting the permits and it was difficult in terms of the financing to get this done. Like I looked at stats and yeah, there were maybe a handful of, you could maybe count the number of garden suites on one hand or something like that in certain cities because they were so far and few between. But yeah, I'm not going to say that everyone has a garden suite, but yeah, there's even one in my neighborhood being built there. So it's great that the rules are being loosened up and it's making it a lot easier to actually put shovels in the ground and build these because it seems like it was, if we're talking maybe 5-10 years ago, it would be pretty challenging then, but definitely seems like there have been a lot of steps taken to make it a lot easier these days.
Definitely, right? It's 5-10 years ago, you'd have to go to community adjustment, pretty much get a section from the neighbors and etc. But now, fast forward to today, this is within the building bylaw. It's relatively easier to get the garden suite application built.
Oh, that's great. And I just wanted to finish off by talking. We spoke with the investors earlier, but yeah, let's say you're a first-time home buyer or you're somebody looking to move up in the market or make a lateral move or even downsize. Maybe you can just talk a bit about what's going on in the real estate market right now. I know that you mainly know Toronto, but yeah, feel free to touch on the rest of Canada if you know what's going on. But yeah, what would you say to somebody either looking to buy their first home or looking to move from property to property? What are your thoughts on the current market? And would you buy first or sell first? And yeah, what would you say for first-time home buyers as well?
Definitely. So for first-time home buyers, the key rule number one will be to speak with a mortgage broker and get a pre-approval completed. The reason why I say this is because I do see many first-time home buyers make the mistake of shopping for a house first and then trying to seek a mortgage pre-approval later. It's always good to get mortgage pre-approval beforehand for two reasons. The first reason being is so you know what your budget is, you know what you can be qualified for up to a certain purchase price. And the second reason is if you find your dream home that you're very interested in, you have your ducks in order to submit an offer on that respective property. Whereas if you didn't have a mortgage pre-approval, you wouldn't be able to submit an offer, right? And you could potentially lose on that property. However, aside from that, what I do see there's a steady influx of buyers returning to the market, mainly for the freehold market segment. So freehold, I'm referring to townhomes, semi-detached homes, and detached homes. I'm starting to see the demand uptick for those properties. However, for the condo market, it's relatively balanced at the moment. Typically speaking, the condo market doesn't really pick up. It usually picks up a quarter or two after the freehold segment, just speaking from the past market trends I have seen. However, I do see there's a lot of good opportunities out there. And the main reason why I do say this is because the prices are relatively flat I mean, they've only increased by about 1.1% year over year as of October 2024. However, the interest rates are considerably lower compared to this time last year, right? So the way I look at it is you're purchasing a home that's relatively around the same price as last year, but the carrying cost is going to be quite a bit lower because you're going to be benefiting from the lower interest rate, whether we're going to be going through variable or fixed. So that's kind of my main advice for first-time home buyers.
Great. And what about people looking to, like, they already own a house and they're looking to buy another house? What would you be your best piece of advice for them? Would you buy first or sell first? And yeah, what advice would you have for them?
Definitely. I think it truly depends on where in the GTA they're from, right? This answer really varies based on the location of the property and also the type of home they're in. Let's say if it's a condo, for example. If it's a condo, I usually would recommend selling first, try to get a 90-day close date, and then purchasing a home afterwards. For freehold homes, again, depends on which region in the GTA. I would say the same rule may apply. Selling first with a 90-day closing and then buying afterwards, just for that peace of mind of the budget that you're working within. Because for the most part, the market is still balanced, even though we're starting to see buyers return to the market. Obviously, if this is a seller's market, then I would emphasize buying first and then selling would make more sense. But in today's market, I would say selling first and then buying would be the safer bet.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks so much for your insight, Jelani. It was great to speak with you today. It's always wonderful to have a realtor like yourself who's so knowledgeable about the market on the podcast. And yeah, thanks so much. I'm sure the listeners found our discussion very helpful today. And yeah, looking forward to having you back in the future to talk about what's going on next year. So again, thank you so much for your time. And it was great having you on the show again today.
Most certainly, and thanks again for having me on this show. It's a pleasure as always.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Burn Your Mortgage podcast. Besides being a podcast host, I'm also an independent mortgage broker. If you or anyone you know, family, friends, coworkers, or neighbors could ever use any unbiased mortgage advice or a second opinion, feel free to reach out. Email me at Sean, that's SEAN, at burnyourmortgage.ca, or call or text me at 647-867-3711 for a free mortgage consultation. Also, be sure to head on over to www.burnyourmortgage.ca and sign up for my free weekly newsletter. As a small token of my appreciation, you'll be able to download my ultimate mortgage checklist on choosing the perfect mortgage. I look forward to hearing from you and helping you with all your mortgage needs. Once again, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Burn Your Mortgage podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and leave a rating. Until next time, happy mortgage burning.